Everybody, we have some great news about the fourth stimulus check. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are now criticizing Republicans for not agreeing to raise the debt ceiling, and a standalone bill that would provide Americans with new stimulus payments could now be passed before the end of the year. Yes, everybody, the Democrats like Speaker Pelosi, as well as Chuck Schumer, are demanding for more stimulus relief and more aid for the American people like you and I. However, the big problem is that many Republicans continue to block the fourth stimulus check from being passed and sent out. Everybody, who is to blame for holding back our stimulus money? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I personally just want to see the Democrats and the Republicans send out the fourth stimulus check as soon as possible. I want to see the great American people all across the country receive financial assistance. And if you guys agree with my message, then let's get this video to 5,000 likes. And don't forget that tomorrow, I'll be announcing one special winner of a free $100 Amazon gift card. And if you would like to enter to win, all you have to do is subscribe to my channel, share this video with your friends and family, and give this video a like.
Yesterday, the Senate passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill in no small part because of all of you, and a significant milestone in the road toward making what we all know are long overdue and much needed investments.
Now this bill, folks, will provide you with a direct payment of $1,400 as well as additional $1,400 to any of your dependents. So you could be getting up to $5,200 worth of free stimulus check money. Now, in an email to Newsweek, Representative McKinley of West Virginia said that the American people are not to blame for this crisis that has threatened the livelihood of millions of hardworking Americans. The bill provides direct relief to Americans who feel unheard, unsupported, and need financial support now. So a standalone bill should be passed in Congress.
As for the current president, his agenda moved a little closer to reality this morning when the Senate approved a framework for that $3.5 trillion plan to expand the social safety net.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 49, and the concurrent resolution as amended is agreed to.
Millions of Americans are still financially struggling, and a fourth round of stimulus payments would help so many people. Senate Democrats took their first step toward passing a $3.5 trillion spending plan early Wednesday, as the party forges ahead with a massive economic agenda. After more than 14 hours of votes on amendments, the Democratic-held chamber voted to pass a budget resolution 50-49 along party lines. And the measure directs committees to draft a bill that would spend up to $3.5 trillion on climate initiatives, paid leave, and childcare. Folks, this will mark the first step in the budget reconciliation process. Do you support the fourth stimulus check, everybody? And will you benefit from another $1,400 stimulus check? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Now, the vote for the resolution follows Senate passage of a roughly $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill.
This isn't going to be anything like my predecessor, whose unpaid tax cuts and other spending added nearly $8 trillion in his 4 years to the national debt. $8 trillion.
Democrats see the bipartisan plan and the reconciliation bill as complementary planks of an agenda that aims to create jobs, slow climate change, and strengthen a social safety net. But early signs of trouble emerge for Democrats, who have to keep every member of the Senate caucus on board in order to approve their spending bill. Folks, don't forget about Senator Joe Manchin. He raised concerns about $3.5 trillion price tags and signaled that he would try to scale back the final legislation. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Leave them in the comments below. Democratic leaders in Congress have blasted Republicans on Wednesday for threatening to not help raise the debt ceiling later this year. Chuck Schumer actually told reporters at a news conference, "I can't believe the Republicans will let the nation default." And according to the Congressional Budget Office, the federal government will likely run out of cash by October or November, unless Congress raises the country's borrowing limit. The debt ceiling must be raised in order for a fourth stimulus payment to be sent out. So the Democrats and Republicans have to find an agreement on this. Do you think they will, everybody? Tell me in the comments below. And Democrats say they shouldn't be forced to shoulder the burden of the politically toxic vote themselves, especially given the debt that was piled up during the former administration. The former president, everybody, increased the debt by almost $7.8 trillion in office. But only a small minority of Republicans oppose his massive tax cuts and government spending during the crisis. Mitch McConnell has vowed that Democrats will not get the help from Republicans, So yes, everybody, it's kind of like Democrats versus Republicans at this point. It's back and forth negotiations, and to be honest with you, it's way too many political games being played. Senate Democrats decided not to pair their $3.5 trillion budget with raising the borrowing limit, even though that process would have allowed them to extend it without Republican support. Everybody, just know this. Most Republicans on Capitol Hill have sharply criticized Democrats for passing a $1.9 trillion stimulus relief bill, $550 billion in new federal funding to rebuild the nation's infrastructure, and for proposing to spend trillions of dollars more to strengthen a social safety net. Republicans are deeply reluctant to raise the debt limit, which will allow the US to honor its obligations to the good American people. Schumer noted Wednesday that the White House and Janet Yellen want to raise the debt ceiling in a bipartisan fashion, and that the Senate's rules for passing a budget limits what you can do there, and doing it outside gives you more flexibility. It has always been bipartisan to deal with a debt ceiling, he said. Plus, Nancy Pelosi also dug in on the situation on Wednesday. She said it is up to both parties to pay the country's bills. Folks, a standalone and bipartisan $1,400 stimulus check has been proposed by 2 U.S. representatives as the congressional battle over economic financial relief as well as stimulus aid continues. The bill is called the Assistance for American Families Act, and was proposed by several Democrats and one Republican, whom was David McKinley of West Virginia. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and truly appreciate everyone's amazing support.
Has a surplus of $2.6 trillion. Social Security can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 27 years. Do we need to make some changes to improve Social Security, strengthen it for 75 years? Sure we do. I've got ideas, other people have ideas. But the idea that to frighten people, to suggest that Social Security is not strong, that it should be privatized, that the retirement age should be raised.
Cassidy here with great news. The Senate just passed a bipartisan infrastructure deal. It will create all kinds of jobs. It will help Americans and those of us in Louisiana tired of long commutes. It'll help with flood protection. It will help with coastal restoration, weatherization of homes, many other things. It's called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And we're talking about roads and bridges. I'll also bring up flooding and natural disasters. It also helps that. It also has $65 billion to help with rural broadband across the nation. That will not only create jobs in the construction of the broadband, it'll bring economic development to those areas of our state that have just not been able to keep up because they've not had that sort of infrastructure. There's other things that position our state to take care of the new economy.